Really appreciate y'all coming, and you know, as the old preacher says, few in number, but we can still hopefully answer any questions you guys have about anything we do with the land buying process. So appreciate it.
Cool. Like I said, most of us know us already, but Ken Wright, my wife Erica, and who does all our marketing, keeps me and Dee in line, don't you think? As much as she can. Of course, Dee. We've been around here a long time. I grew up here as a kid back in the '60s. So other than my 24-year stint in the Coast Guard and my craziness of how I got into real estate is the admiral that I was over me says you need to let the young guys go play and shoot up things and put you behind a desk, and so I ended up managing all the real estate for the Coast Guard from Key West to South Padre, Texas, which was interesting. It put in a whole dynamics because it covered all kinds of stuff, which led me into this world. But what we're talking about today, of course, is buying land. I have more fun with that, even though I have to mess with, of course, this landmark center a lot of my life. But the land part, literally from I've been doing this for almost 20 years, and I've done it from the development side and just from land purchasing, working with a lot of the military that I've had association with, is my piece. I take I take my 9mm when I'm out there after showing the property, unload things, just a little stress-free type environment type stuff. But I've seen an uptick in land buying for two reasons. One is because we have done some things with farm credit, and a lot of people don't know when they go to their banks, they're not, I guess you say, land friendly as farm credit is, and that'll be talked about in a little bit from the finance side of it. But also, as we will go through here, there is not much of it, especially in the Panhandle of Florida. I coincidentally just have a lot of friends who have a lot of this land here that have it, and I've sold probably close to $10 or $15 million of land in itself, just by little pieces, large pieces, some as much as 200 acres to even close to 300 or 400 acres. So with that being said, and it just lends itself that, and these people that are here, I guess what I want to characterize is they've actually inherited a lot of it. They probably don't have the love that their parents did, and they see a profitability side of it to get rid of it. I talk to them sometimes you can have these big pieces. It's better, just like you chop up a car, you can chop up the land. A lot of people could swallow a little bit smaller pieces type thing. So you got that going on. So I guess I'm supposed to follow my wife's PowerPoint. Do I hit something to make?
Yeah, just hold on 1 second, brother.
Oh.
Okay, I'm just trying to get down here. There it is, that way. Alright. Just hold up. Hold up there for just 1 second. Got it.
Yeah, you know who we are. Platinum Real Estate Associates is something I created 10, 15 years ago. Is basically we have associated a lot of those. But like you said, I not only do the real estate, being a retired Coast Guard guy, director, and then of course I grew up in the area. And just so you know, for the record, Coast Guard birthday is next Friday. So I gotta plug that in. 200 and I think 37 years. So. Been around a long time. A lot of history, and I can bore you to death on that later another time. Erica, as you know, as I mentioned before, she keeps us out of trouble most of the time and tries to keep me between the lines a lot of times, which she has a chore to do that. She's grown up here a long time as well, from the Panama City area. Dee? She's been doing this a long time herself. Started in the management and rental management and led into this stuff. And we've been together for, a long time now. 2011. She is, of course, a military spouse, knows a lot about the folks in the area, former rental, and then a resident for a long time. Very interactive in the local community, with especially soccer and among other things. So. She got a military designation. Like I said, time is right. I've seen, from my perspective, I do this a lot more, is one is the interest rates are low. people are starting to figure out that there is land that can be bought, but they need to know why and all the pitfalls that you have to make sure you don't fall into. A lot of people buy a piece of land, and next thing you know, they don't know what the heck they buy swampland, and some, or they think they got something, and it's nothing but swampland. There is some nice swampland, but you got to look at all those features and sit down. What are you trying to accomplish? So, like I said, recently there's been a lot of purchases. And for the most part, ours have been a lot of military folks. One is, and I can almost coin this phrase from them a lot, I need to get off the grid. Now, most of the guys that we do with the special forces and all this kind of stuff, yeah, you imagine what they do. They need to get a little peace of mind, so they'll go right and wring someone's neck all the time. So they go back out. So a lot of them have done that and done a lot of things. I know Mike had one gentleman, he was in special forces. He built a beautiful little house over there, and that's another they'll talk about later, that it's not just buying land. The price is right, but it's going up. It's because there's only a limited amount, and it is going up. We see it uptick, and most of the pieces that we've seen have gotten in the hands of people not trying to flip it. They're actually trying to do something with it, live on it, have a summer place, have a getaway from the big city of Fort Walton or something like that. So where do you want to start? Well, I guess first and foremost is, and what is Mike and you can afford, that kind of stuff, and all the dynamics of that, and we'll talk about that a little bit later. And then you can talk to us. We have a lot of experience. We work with other realtors, as we mentioned, type stuff. But I love doing that and educating people as well. And our thing is, and at least I do, is what are you trying to accomplish those things? So and what is your desires? Because everybody has something new. We have some people want to start a farm. Some people just want to build a cabin somewhere. Some people just want to go put their RV somewhere. Some want to be in this area, that area. There's a whole different reason. So everybody's a little different. So you sort of interview and find out what it is. Is it going to be for agriculture? Are you going to build on it? Again, Mike and his folks will talk about that they can merge into a land purchase and then into a home or anything like that. A lot of people say, hey, I want to go be able to hunt. I mean, you get them probably the ideal hunting, because if you know anything about hunting, that little projectile you shoot, you want to make sure it stays. You're responsible for that, so you don't want to just buy an acre thinking you're going to be shooting deer somewhere. That's not going to happen, because that projectile you're responsible for. Again, is it leisure? We've had so many stories over the last 10 or 15 years that we've had people. I'm always surprised what they could do with it. We had one that was a 5-acre parcel. He designed it where you came in the property, didn't know anything was back there, looked like a bunch of scrub oaks, but the way he designed the rows, turned a little left angle, and next thing you know, inside this thing looked like a golf course. Never would have saw it. And a lot of people, in his reasoning for that was, hey, he don't want to know there's a lot of stuff back there. If people see a house, got people have a little concern, hey, someone could, because they're not here a lot. But here, you would have never known. It's just a little gate. But back in there, he's got this beautiful RV park and all this kind of stuff, everything. But it looked like a golf course. And it took him a few years to do that, but it was his little haven for the weekend or so, and he did that kind of stuff. So you need to go in regards to that. When do you want to purchase? Again, time is probably right. The pickings are getting slimmer and slimmer, and it's not people have bought it and going to try to sell it. Most of the people have bought it and it's their use. So those are kind of things. So is now the time for price wise? Is the financing situation better for you in the future? Those are things that you have to look at. But what are the consequences for delay and that kind of stuff? We pretty much, like I said, growing up here, I pretty much been around most of the places from Walton, Okaloosa County, for a variety of reasons, whether it was where we used to hang out, whether we hunted on, or no telling back in those days. A lot of things too is some places, and I'll give you the example. We had the one that Mike did for a gentleman in Crestview. I mean, it was probably, I don't know if you remember, it was like 20 acres, but it was right next to the airport. It was in the middle of a subdivision, but it was in the county. So you could do a lot of the things in, but he actually, of the place he's been there, he was actually getting ready to raise cattle. I haven't checked up with him as he ever went to that part, but here it is. He had this large parcel, And you literally went through this nice subdivision. There's this little road to get to it. Next thing you know, he's got a little hacienda back there and got a great deal on that kind of stuff. So whether it's city limits, of course, you got tax ramifications and a variety of zoning ramifications. So with Okaloosa County, you got to look at what is he going to do. We have one we're working on now. He's looking at, hey, I want 40 acres. How many? It's going to be a family commune. Hey, all the kids going to get a little piece. So how many people could actually build a house out there in that particular place? Because not all the zoning is different from Walton County to Okaloosa County. So you got to look at all those factors. And again, I'll lead on to, maybe Mike could note this, there's a way to do it that you can minimize the tax liability. So, and I'll just quickly say, hey, if you bought a 40-acre parcel and you build a house on it, well, you want to cut out the house, or you don't want the whole dang property to be known as a residential, because you're going to get eaten up with taxes, compared to if you left, cut out an acre and the other 39 acres is agriculture. It's a heck of a lot cheaper for taxes than to worry about that 1 acre. So, and they can talk about how that's done, and they actually walk people through that process thing. So, so again, the amenities, we talked a little bit. What does it have? A lot of people love little streams and of course ponds, and no telling. And everybody has a little different, but what are the amenities? And we classify amenities as well as the little things like, hey, I'm going to go out in the countryside. I can sit around with my cane pole and try to catch some bass and stuff like that. Can it be done that way? Those kind of things. So you have to look at all those amenities. There's different ones. One thing I don't think is about the rights for mineral rights and stuff in this thing. Okay. One thing, it's not up there, but it's in your packet. But mineral rights has become a big item. One is, and it's addressed certain ways, and you need to have the title company look into it. But up in the north side of, maybe Mike has some notes on this. But mineral rights meaning, who's if I buy this, who's going to get, if someone finds, like the old Jed Clampett hits a bullet in the thing and all of a sudden oil pops up there, who's going to get the money for that if it happens? Some owners will retain those. So, but that doesn't mean you can't do anything. But if you owned it, but the mineral rights stayed with the previous owner, and there is something of significance, whether it's, granted, I know oil and gas is big up in the Baker area, but let's say it's something in there, but they do find something in their just normal, like I said, incidental, dug down a well and they hit a gas line, a natural gas line. Shoot, that's a big butt. So when doing so, yeah, you might have found it, but all the rights for that becomes the owner's of the previous owner if he retains those, and those are decisions that are made all the time. Again, probably Erica and Dee do this more. I just get out of their way, but go back and finding out what is the history, and you could do that through the records. Is there 3-4 different people tied to this thing? Because you don't want to run into, you buy a piece of property, when they do the title search and they do find out, well, Billy Bob still has rights to this, and you got to make sure that gets addressed. And that, again, you have title insurance and that talk about that. We talked a little bit about the zoning info again. Access to the property, huge. But in the state of Florida, you have to have access to your property that you purchased. And there's not much that can be done. And those usually have been established, but they but has to be watched when you start breaking things up. So I think didn't you do Miss the lady up in Vegas? She did their house, their son. Well, anyway, one of the clients is they bought a larger piece of property and started breaking it up. Well, they had to take in consideration that when they do that, that son and daughter, whoever they might have, is not going to be the only ones there. They could probably sell it 20 years from now. Well, you have to have designed a system showing that they could get to that property type stuff. And in Okaloosa County, that easement needs right now, that's what we ran into, that need 30 feet easement, because if you're going to build a home in there, the fire department, if you want a fire truck to come get you, they want 30-foot easement. That's their rule, that thing. So you have to look at that. I'm sorry?
Every county is different.
Yeah, and the purpose for the easement is not only accessibility, but also access to by emergency vehicles, stuff like that. Utility easement, go back.
Sorry.
Utility info, there again, there's a lot of easements that are taken care of by all your utilities. There might be a power line, there might be a gas line. There's all these kind of things. So those are all looked at, and you want to look at that thing, how that affects maybe where you might want to build something. So here it is. If you just see an aerial, say, hey, I want my property right there. Well, there might, when you do the survey, you might be in line of an easement from one of those utilities. But those easements are very important, so you want to make sure you look at those type of things when you're deciding what you're going to do with it. Because we had a lot of people go down this path, got this vision of what they're going to do, and next thing you know, when the survey came in, it showed it went right through their little compound, and to do what they wanted in another piece of the property, there was a little more wetlands type stuff. And before you thought, wetlands is key. We run into that a lot these days. One is the property, for example, it's a process. I know about processes with the state and county and the department very well, but their process is not always fast, and attention to detail is not always the best. But what I'm getting at is, let's say you have a 40-acre parcel, and maybe 20, 30, or 40% of it is wetlands. Just because of wetlands, their thing is you cannot do anything, construct anything in that area unless you get a DEP, you mitigate that property. Mitigating means, and this is on a case-by-case basis, they will look at how that area is being affected through the watershed. So, and they give it a value. Now we're going to go see some land. Like I said, this is one of the parcels we have. It's up there in Peacock Road, right off just to the west of Defuniak. Not too far from to west of where the airport is. You just go up Peacock off of Highway 90. And there again, it's a small lake. It was basically a old classmate friend back years and years and years ago that they unfortunately got divorced, and this was the last thing that was holding them together. So he has all the rights. But anyway, they have it. So they just he needs to get rid of it. He does have no need to be back here anymore. So anyway, it's a nice, beautiful piece of property. There again, that's one of those ones. Go back there. It's and I've been up there. It's that has a 40-foot easement. This is good. We ran into this the other day. That's very important. The 40-foot easement was acquired years and years and years ago when the family owned it. Well, the owner next door bought the adjoining property. The 40-foot easement goes through his property. What that says is that that owner who owns that 40 acres has the rights to build a road to get to that property. It's about 100 yards or so. So, unfortunately, for the adjoining property owner, when he purchased it, he did not know that. He thought it's his land, and he was putting his foot down, you can't build anything. Well, unfortunately, it's very clear, yes, you can. So, but here it is. Those are the kind of things to look at. But this is a 40-foot. There again, normally it was 30. It was almost like a 2-lane road. You could build. You don't have to build a 2-lane road. It's really what you want to do to get back there. Whether you want to just take a RV or a Jeep or a golf cart, whatever. Those are your choices. But you have the right to go from the access point, which is Peacock Road, which runs into to get to that property. So those are the kind of things there. So next.
And all of these properties are financeable by Farm Credit.
Yep. Jolly Bay. This is the one in the city limits of Freeport. And if you've been there, well, of course, everyone. How many people ever knows about Freeport? It's like what I always say. It's like Niceville was when I was growing up. And I'll give it 10 years, and it won't look the same either. But this is a client that we have. It's a nice 4.5 acres. Really, it's zoned very well where you could do a number of things. If you wanted to build something development-wise, and I guess these are one of the questions I'll ask Mike later on. But this is really a nice, beautiful countryside. You're in the city limits, but you don't know. You're not in the quote. It doesn't feel like you're in the city. But anyway, it's a piece that will have some value, as you can see, in the future. But I guess I'll have some questions with Mike later, what may or may not be done if it gets developed later on in the future. Because that's a little direction you got to be careful with, right?
Correct.
So, hey. Does it?
Trying.
Oh.
Just thinking.
Holly tree. Diffusion attack springs. Everybody knows, and this is the craziness about Mossy Head. Has a there's a sort of like a line somewhere down Laird Road. This is if you went from Laird Road, which is about where the 285 exit is to I-10. It's really just a mile up. You go straight up this up there, you'll hit Holly Tree Road, and it backs up into this area. Beautiful piece of road, a couple of streams, got water connected to it, so you could tie into that and not reuse a well. And let me back up. That's a good one thing I'm running to. The type of utilities that you may have to use, whether it's sanitary, meaning are you going to have sewer line nearby, or is there you're going to have to use a septic, and it's all in your notes that Erica's going to give you. And the other thing is of course, water. In some of these areas are growing into, like Mossy Head has their own water city water now, type thing, and those are all things done because things are happening in Mossy Head. But what I'm getting at originally was Mossy Head is there's a line sort of like in the middle. What we all know as Mossy Head is got a Defuniac spring address, and I still haven't figured out, so no one can answer this. But on Laird Road to the left of it has actually it said, and we're in another county now, but it has Crestview, Florida. Do you know why? I have no clue, but we have a number of people who live on Laird Road, but on the west side, and they're still in Walton County, but they have a Crestview address. I have not figured that out. So, but anyway, that property there has access to electricity and water right up to it, and you can have a picture of it right there to the left. And that's the road that leads right into the property, which is actually not, in this case, not an easement. It actually is owned. And these people have done these for years and years and years. Well, and not only that, of course, we have not only the ones we personally sell and know a lot of knowledge, but if we have a client that comes in, which we do from time to time, is access to everything. I mean, we all share in the real estate world the MLS system, and we have ways to assist you and giving you an idea on your criteria. You know, Dee and Eric could probably do this better than I, where, hey, you give them your criteria. I want to stay under this price, minimum acreage in this particular area, and there again, it's not like you're overwhelmed, because a lot of people aren't necessarily satisfied with some of the Trulias and the Zillows and all that stuff. They're sort of lagging behind. When we give you access to this particular information, it's real time, meaning if we add another piece of property and it was in your criteria, if you were searching on Zillow and Trulia, you might have a few days delay. And we've had this because people say, hey, I just saw it on Zillow, it's on my search, and I got it. Well, we look it up immediately, and it's like, it's over on the how could that be? It just came on the thing just literally a few minutes ago. Well, it's because of those services, Trulia and Zillow and stuff, they actually buy from our system. They buy access to our system. They buy access on a particular a time frame. They might only want it a download every once a week. They might want it once a day. They might want it once a month. It depends on which one it is. But ours, when we give you it, you actually get real time, meaning if we added a piece of property and it was in your criteria and Erica hits save, literally seconds, comes right straight to you and say, hey, here's one that just shows up. It's in your criteria, and you got it as well as everybody else at that given time, and you're not delayed. So anyway, now the process as a whole, as we get into, hey, I found this one, let's take a shot at it. One is, you know, we analyze on what's a fair market value of it. What could the seller may or may not sell it for? I use this jokingly, but I said I like to find the blood in the water. I mean, ultimately, what is their reasoning? What kind of mortgages have? Erica, being a mortgage person in the past, she knows how to dwell out. Hey, they got a equity loan on or anything more? Is it motivations that these sellers have? But if you have the knowledge, you'd be able to find the fair price and make it a win-win for both parties. The other thing is the closing cost. If you're loaning, there's certain loan costs that are involved with that, and but everything's negotiable. Even though there's some standard stuff when you have and we don't create these contracts, they're created by both the Florida Association of Realtors and the Florida Bar for lawyers, and they mix together to try to come up with something that everybody can live with. So determine what the traditional costs are shared. In most cases, sellers have an understanding that they're going to pay taxes on the deed. That's their biggest one. It's really just how the state gets money, so that's usually their cost. The other ones the case comes into, who's the survey? Well, who's going to benefit from the survey? The new owner. Who's going to benefit from title insurance? The new owner. These are all things. However, that might be the case, but that doesn't say, hey, we want you to, pay for all that cost. We want you to pay half the cost. We want to pay $1,000 towards that cost. I mean, those are all things at the end of the day. But what you're really doing is finding out from the seller standpoint, what is their bottom line? Because no matter how all these costs are done, when they get at the closing table, how you figure those out is really you work with your title agent and say, hey, here's all these costs. When we negotiate, what's that guy getting at the end of the day? If you know that helps you a little bit on how you want to design that, because that's what you're shooting for when they look at it most for yourself. First thing, how much am I getting a check for? So that's what you're doing. Now, the EMD, which is earnest money deposit, what is that for? A lot of people have a misunderstanding about that. Earnest money deposit is to take care of the seller if things go bad. And a lot of people throw them, if you can get it if we're the buyer, we're going to go, hey, we'll give you $500 just to show we're serious. The seller, if you're in the seller's position, you're saying, hey, what happens if I do all this stuff and you walk on me? What's my recourse? Well, the default recourse is the fact is, hey, you have this money sitting in the bank or in the title company and say, hey, I just did this, this, and this, which you required, and you walk after a certain period of time. You're going to forfeit that, or at least some or part or all. But there's also a caveat that even if that wasn't enough, let's say you have, and I'm just making up numbers, but say it was $5,000. Hey, I did this, and some other costs, and let's say they only had a $3,000 deposit. Well, you not only have the ability you got cash in the bank that you can get to sooner than later, but you do have a right of the default clause. You can still go after them for that other $2,000 as damages. Now, granted, there's a business decision on whether or not you don't want to pay a lawyer a bunch of money for more money than what you're going to get. So there again, those are the kind of things where it's very important on the EMD, which side you are, the buyer or the seller, because really you want to keep the lawyers out of it. I mean, if you want to say, hey, if you're serious about this, as long as you do X, Y, and Z, why do you care how much money you get? Because A, you're going to go forward and farm credit's going to pay the bill anyway. I don't care. That kind of stuff. Feasibility, which you see in land, is really your ability to check that thing out all the way through everything, any concern you might have. And you usually establish a period of time. It depends on the size and the property itself. In most cases, it's anywhere between 2 weeks to 30 days. And that really determines who's going to do any inspections. But if you're buying a 40-acre parcel and what do you need to know? And it's like you're going to be your hunting land. Well, what are you worried about? Find out everything you worry about. Can you hunt on that land? What can you do in the future? So you have that maybe a 2-week period, a 30-day, whatever they allow. But that is a period of time where you can make all those choices. At the end of that period, you're going to have 2 choices. I'm going to do this and go forward, meaning now your EMD is in jeopardy, and that the seller can keep that. However, in most cases, if there's still one step, and that is the financing side of it, is that, hey, if he can't finance it, then that's your financing contingency. Hopefully you have it written in there, that would be your ability to get your money back, your EMD back. So those are kind of things to do that. Closing date, again, lenders drive that a lot for us. Sometimes moves a little bit more than we want, but those are kind of things we look at. But I'll let Mike talk about how long they do, and from our experience, much faster.
Much
Do you have any other lenders in here? No. Much faster than some of your traditional things now. Closing day. This is when everyone's going to be happy, hopefully, and everything works out. I don't think, Mike, your package is not as probably as thick as some of the others. But, basically, once you get through, you have all your documents saying, hey, if you're having a loan, they're going to provide all the loan documents. You're going to have your from the land side. There's survey documents done, and any title insurance. Your title insurance is looking at making sure they're reviewing that. Is there any claims to this property? Because when you buy it, you want a statutory warranty deed, meaning there ain't no sins, no issues, but there probably will be. And the point being, those things are good. Title insurance is really like, and I try to give it is like car insurance. You're buying something. In this case, it's one fee for the remainder of that life. Once they check it out, they're basically protecting those boundaries. Meaning, let's say you buy that property and an easement issues, or maybe the neighbor has his fence on your property, whatever, there's a dispute. But if the title company or the insurance company where you're getting it from says, hey, we have a surveyor, what he gives us, he's basically insured, so he's making sure he's done his job right, they like who they're dealing with. If they say, hey, these are the boundaries, we're going to fight for this, their lawyers are going to fight for you. That's one of the key points there. Okay. But let's say, for example, and this has happened again for Walton County. Back in the day, surveys were notoriously, and probably maybe in some places still, some surveyor went from east to west and one went from west to east, and they overlap. And what happens is nowadays you got technology is so precise. They're saying, hey, that little fence is like 3 feet inside my property, and the survey says. So basically, if that happens, you notify your title insurance saying, hey, we have a problem here. And they'll look and say, hey, well, we are there to defend your borders, and that fence he's trying to build in your property, or maybe did it one weekend, and say, hey, you're in the wrong place. That's their job to contact, and you're in good. You're not paying that lawyer. You already paid him because through the insurance. So they're going to try, hopefully, deal with it on the lowest level possible, saying, hey, guy, move the fence. Well, I said, no, I'm doing it here. Well, then you're getting into some issues. Then you get back to, if he has title insurance and his, maybe he's much older, and he's going from his survey, and they do actually conflict, then hopefully those two lawyers will find out, how do we make our clients whole? And that could be done with money, it could be done with new surveys, so on and so on, type of stuff. But if it can't, then they got to argue in front of a judge, and the judge is going to tell you what the problem is, or what his solution is, and then you have to live with that solution. But let's say you're on the losing side of it. Maybe the guy his was right and yours was wrong. Your title insurance company has to make you whole, and that's just like anything with insurance companies. The definition of whole is something you're going to find out. Hey, is this worth X dollars? So here's your check for X dollars. Oh, by the way, I have to move my house now. To make me whole means they might have a bigger check to pay. But then again, that's insurance, and that's how that process works, I think. So, was it?
Yes, that's all of ours. What we're going to do is go ahead and turn it over to Mike with Farm Credit, and then we're going to do questions at the end.